Okay. This is my next episode. Hello, my name is Daryn, and today we're going to be talking about something that I actually mentioned in my last video, which was I hate when the first book of a series is just setting up the series plot and doesn't totally have a plot of its own. I mentioned it in my mid-year wrap-up as it relates to God Killer by Hannah Kaner, and I alluded to a book that I had read before and didn't drop names, but that book was actually Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. And here's the thing, I really like Cassandra Clare. I read all of her books when I was growing up. Even the incest plot didn't turn me off. But I just get so frustrated when a book is so clearly trying to be the next Game of Thrones, the next Harry Potter, the next whatever. And so I'm going to tell you about some books that I really like. That the first book is pretty explicitly world building, but it still has its own plot. So, what I really like in a first book of a series is when it's so tied up and it's so neat that you want to read more because you fell in love with the world and because you fell in love with the characters, not because if you don't read more, then you get zero resolution. That's bullshit and dog shit, and I think it's lazy, and I think it's bad on the part of authors and publishers to do that. So I'm gonna highlight some books that I think they're like the start of the series, and I think they do a really good job of world building while also having a contained plot. And some of these, I view them as you've got your long form series and then you've got your episodic series. And episodic series, I really view, those really long murder mysteries. There's one, I think her name is Donna Andrews, where all of the titles are bird puns. I love that one. I'm going to be so for real. Also, I was standing so close that my head was cut off. Sorry. I love that one. Those ones are so much fun. But I'm talking about like fantasy worlds where you need to really understand the world. But I don't want my first introduction to that world to be just an introduction. Hopefully you understand what I mean. There's a difference between a book that's world building and giving you this plot where you get resolution at the end, and maybe things aren't tied. Oh, there go my cats. Maybe things aren't tied in a perfect bow at the end, but they're tied in enough of a bow that if you walked away from the book, you would still feel like you got resolution for your characters, versus God Killer, where the last page was clearly this is the inciting incident for a longer book. This could have been a 2,000-page book and it would have been fine. I hate that. I hate it. 0 stars. If you've got an interesting story to tell, you need to figure out how to tell it and make each book enjoyable to read. Filler episodes are fun on Avatar: The Last Airbender. They are not fun when you're reading a 400-page, 200-page even book. So, without further ado, the first one that I'm going to highlight is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. It's a high fantasy world, and the plot of this one, it's masterfully done. So the plot of this one is, it's like a Sherlock Holmes, John Watson kind of vibe, but the main plot is that they're solving a murder. And then there's this secondary plot that's building the world where a giant sea monster attack is imminent. And that's kind of that's the underlying plot throughout the whole thing. It puts this sense of urgency on them solving this crime, because the city that they're solving it in might literally cease to exist. And that all is world building. We're finding things out because of this. And it makes the world building so engaging and so fun. And then you end up falling in love with these characters as they're reacting to this underlying plot, and also this immediate plot of solving the murder. So I'm going into the next book with an understanding of the world, but I also know that I'm going to have a mystery that at the end of the book is tied up. There is a mystery that was kind of introduced, at the end of the book, you're I kind of wonder about that I hope is solved in future books. But I'm enjoying the ride on this one. I hope there's a wider plot that we find out all the way through, kind of similar to the Sherlock Holmes books, where you're like, oh, he's like this obviously autistic man who's solving crimes and doing cocaine. And then really it's like he's fighting Moriarty and looking for Irene Adler. So I hope it's kind of like that. But that one was a really good one, really good introduction. This is definitely for adults. There's LGBT representation, neurodivergent representation, lots of discussions about like autocracies and, you know, like doing what's right in the face of imminent demise and all that kind of stuff. Really good. Highly recommend. The next the next two are actually for children. So the first one that I'm going to talk about, and we're going to talk about this one a lot because this is like the book that shaped who I am today and like radicalized me. And I'm not saying just this one. Look how tiny that is. And also, please see. I don't know if it'll focus, but like she's held together with many layers of tape. She's Pulp Fiction. She was published in the 80s. I don't know what edition this one's from. It's been in my family for about 25 years. But there's maybe 20 books in this series. It's called the Tortall series, and it's by Tamora Pierce. This first one is called Alana, the First Adventure, and it's kind of like Mulan. She is in a medieval high fantasy world where women go to the nuns to be taught how to be ladies and boys go to the court to be taught how to be a knight. And she doesn't want to be a knight. She doesn't want to be a lady. She wants to be a knight. So she has a twin brother. Her twin brother goes to the nuns to learn how to be a wizard. And she goes to court, conceals that she's a woman, and fights for her shield. So this first book, they're organized into quartets. So there's the Song of the Lioness Quartet, which is 4 books about Alana as the main character. The next one is the Immortals Quartet, which is 4 books where Alana is a side character. And the main character is a girl named Dane. The next one is Protector of the Small Quartet. Same thing, Dane and Alana, side characters, and the main character is Kel. And it keeps going like that, where like the world is built with previous characters as side characters. Now, I will say this one is special in the sense that you can pick any book in this 20-book series, jump on into it, and the world building is so tight. It is so solid that you will be able to jump in anywhere and know what's happening. Even if you jump in like 3rd quartet, 2nd book, which is Paige in the Protector of the Small Quartet, you can jump in there and you will still know what's going on. But this book, there is a wider plot. It's masterful. Tamora Pierce is a genius. If you don't know who she is, you need to. She is an actual genius. The plot revolves around Alana. In this book, it revolves around her fighting for her shield. You get this underlying plot of court intrigue, and that continues through the quartet. And then throughout the quartet, you get this underlying plot of international court intrigue. That continues into the next quartet. The next quartet builds into a war that continues and comes to a head in the 3rd quartet. The next series is a duology, which is called the Trickster's Queen duology. It's Trickster's Choice and Trickster's Queen. That one references back to things in this book. That is how tight the world building is. But when I say you can read this one and feel satisfied with the ending without reading the other ones, which I don't know if you could do that purely because the writing is so amazing for a children's book from the 80s, it's that tight. I love this as an introduction to the world. You learn about the magic system, you learn about the politics. You kind of grow up with the characters so that at every step, the more you learn, the less you feel like, oh, she didn't think about that beforehand. It's more that, why would a 12-year-old give a shit about this detail until they hit that age? It's brilliant. It's amazing. If you have young children, I am begging you, read them this. This is so much better than the Wizarding School. I'm going to say that again because I want to make it really clear. This is so much better than the Wizarding School. This book will teach you morals. It will teach you empathy. It will teach you kindness. It will teach you how to stand up for yourself. It's got LGBT representation. It has the idea of racial tensions. It has trans characters. It has all these things. It was written in the 80s. And I'm telling you, reading it as an adult in the 2020s, it still stands up. It is beautiful. Please read this book and know that you can read this first book, just this first book, and feel content. You won't want to stop there, but you can. You can. Next book, same thing. This is one of those books that I read as a kid. Embarrassingly, it took me until I was like in my 20s. I had been reading this book at least once a year for like 12 years before I realized that it's about zombies. What can I say? Some people are just born spectacular. Sabriel by Garth Nix. It is part of the Old Kingdom series. It's another one where this entire book, when you read this book, you're like, wow, that is such a good story. When you read the whole series, you're like, wow, this book was just world building. And it doesn't matter because the story is contained and it matters to the history of the rest of the stories. It makes sense when you go into a prequel. You start to see the things that set this book up. It makes sense when you're after it and you see what happens after. It is beautiful. It is perfect. It's about, there's like, he's Australian, so I think it's Australian or British. I don't really, but they use miles, so maybe it's Australia. I don't really know. Anyways, there's this wall in Excelsior, and Excelsior is like, I would say the equivalent of the 1920s or 30s our time. And on the other side of the wall, which is a magical wall, there is the Old Kingdom. In the Old Kingdom, technology doesn't work. If it's man-made, it falls apart. So like if you go into the Old Kingdom with pants that were like made of synthetic fibers and stitched using a sewing machine, like a mechanical sewing machine, would not work. You got to wear hand-woven, hand-stitched everything. There are two forms of magic. There's charter magic, there's free magic. In this one, we focus mostly on charter magic, and the plot revolves around this position within the kingdom called the Abhorsen. And the Abhorsen's job is to make sure that dead things stay dead. Once again, not sure how I didn't recognize that this is about zombies. It's literally about the undead coming to life again. Death is imagined as a river. Absolutely spectacular. No notes. Another one that reading as an adult in the 2020s, not very many issues with it. Garth Nix is a genius. If you want some existential dread, read Mr. Monday. Read the Keys to the Kingdom series. That one is, I don't even want to talk about it because it's kind of horrifying. Paige will back me up on that. But Sabriel is just an excellent book where, this whole plot point, it gets resolved by the end of the book. And then we jump into a wider plot point for the further books. So you feel like you're getting world building. You jump into the other books feeling like you understand the world and the rules without feeling like this book didn't matter. Because it does matter, because it's woven into the other stories. It is just world building, but it's not. Just trust me. The next one that we're going to be talking about is B.E. Schwab's Darker Shade of Magic. Same thing as Sabriel, where this first plot is kind of self-contained. Do you know what I mean? Like this plot sets up the world for books 2 and 3 and probably 4. I haven't read it yet, but probably 4. But you don't feel like it's just world building. You don't feel like you wasted time reading this book. I cannot recommend it enough. I really enjoyed, for some reason, all 3 of the audiobook versions that I had a different reader. I don't know what was going on with that. It's not my business. I really enjoyed reading these, but they do get a little complicated because there's parallel worlds, and they are connected by a single point that is the same. There's 4 of them, and they are all connected by Londons. So like the main character is from Red London, and then our London is Grey London. There's a White London and there's a Black London, and it has to do with the type of like how magic exists in that world. So White London, the magic is leeching away. Black London, the magic took over the world. Red London, there's a healthy balance of London. And Grey London, like life has gone on, but there is no magic. It all gets explained really, really well in this book and then expanded on in future books. But at the end of this book, you feel a sense of resolution. You don't feel like, oh, I've been left on a cliffhanger and oh, maybe I just really hate cliffhangers. No, I'm going to stick with it and say that I think it's lazy when your entire first 600 pages or 200 pages or 400 pages is just world building, and like the plot didn't essentially matter because it was just an inciting incident. This isn't 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 an inciting incident. Not in the sense where if you took them away, you would miss world building, but you would still be able to understand what's going on in the story. If you took away God Killer, or if you took away Sword Catcher, there's too much intricacy in the world to know what's going on. I have 2 more. So I'm going to go through those real quick. The next one, because these are all fantasy, and then my last one is not a fantasy. The next one is Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. This one is really interesting because it kind of diverges from the other ones where they're all their own self-contained plot. This one sets up a full trilogy arc, but it does it in such a way that I wasn't mad about it. And I don't really know what the difference is, but I think it's because there was like, there's the inciting incident, and the world is being built as the plot is building and everything like that. And there's a legitimate denouement. Most books will go up and down. So you'll have like, here's where you start. There's a little bit of a build. Here's an inciting incident. You're going to go up a little bit. You're going to have some jagged peaks as people world build and think they've solved it, but they haven't, and da-da-da-da-da. You're going to have the climax, and then you're going to have the denouement into a resolution. I firmly believe that if you're going to do a series, your book needs to still go like this. It can almost go back to normal and then go back up. It can go back like halfway, but it cannot go, here's book 1, here's book 2, here's book 3, here's book 4. That's a stupid way to do a plot, and I do not appreciate it. So that's what I don't like. I don't like when it just goes like this. I want it to go like this still for each book. And then like when it's a series, it goes like, am I making sense? I think I'm making sense. In my brain, I'm making sense. So hopefully in real life, I'm making sense. All right, let me grab the last one, and then I'll show you. Okay, my last book is Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. Now, we're not going to get into all the fuckery that was going on with him dying, and this was published after his death and all that kind of stuff. But what we are going to talk about is the fact that when it is general fiction, like this is, it's set in the real world in Sweden, world building has to be different. You have to set up societal rules, and you have to establish that this is grounded in the real world, which I actually think at times can be harder than creating a fantasy world. We'll talk about that in another video maybe. But in this one, we have this very self-contained, similar to Tainted Cup, we have this very self-contained single object to address. We've got the murder mystery, the disappearance of this girl off this island. It's like this decades-old mystery, and the mystery of the flowers. And as we're doing that, we discover other mysteries to uncover. Now, as this is happening, we get this underlying plot that is Lisbeth Salander's life. Why she is the way she is. Why she's under conservatorship. Why she is so angry. Why she is this. Why she is that. And it's masterful. It is a true shame that he died before he could see his work in the hands of the public, and how treasured most of us feel about this story despite its violence. It's also a real shame that the people who took over the story took it in such a different direction. Again, we're not going to talk about that in this video, even though I can feel it coming out of me. But it is a very impressive, very well done storyline. The first book does a full this, and there's an underlying upward swing of Lisbeth Salander's life and her story, and the story that will be continued in the next 2 books. I think this is an excellent example of this being done with general fiction. The other ones that I showed are an excellent example of it being done with high fantasy and fantasy. But let me know in the comments, drop a follow, like, whatever the call to action is for my channel to get more people, do that. And tune in for the next video, which should be about something Paige wants to talk about, because I don't know. We don't plan these things. We're just here to talk about books. But I hope you liked it. Drop a follow, drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you agree or disagree. Just know if you disagree, these are my favorite books and I will fight you. Okay.